Hello, everybody. Welcome to Module 7. And so I am at home over Thanksgiving break and just trying to record something ahead of time because next week's going to be a really busy week for me, as I am sure it's going to be busy for all of you. I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving break. I just kind of wanted to review where we've been. So, of course, this class is about the 6 language arts, and we have gone over the 6 language arts. We've talked about speaking and listening. You guys did a lesson plan on speaking and listening. We looked at viewing, and you looked at those visual standards and what state standards said about that. And you guys created an infographic. We looked at UFly, a very scripted program, because I wanted you to see that you can have a scripted program, but at the same time, you can integrate the language arts in that scripted program. We then looked at writing, and all of you did a second writing lesson where you taught a writing lesson, you developed a writing lesson plan, and you recorded it and reflected. And then this last week we looked at grammar and spelling, and so I gave you some student work and you looked at the spelling and grammar mistakes, and then you told me what those errors were and what lesson needed to come. So we've really covered all the language arts, but today we're looking at something that encompasses really all of the 6 language arts, and that is technology. And so I want to share my screen with you, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at technology, or actually this module, and the language arts. So let's go ahead and get started. So a few things I want you to consider when you think about technology is, first one, in what ways might technology widen or does it narrow the learning gap in your classroom? And we would hope that it would narrow that learning gap. But I want you to think about, could it be possible that technology might widen the gap? Are there some students that have access to technology and tools and other people that don't? Could that widen the gap? So we need to kind of think about that. The other thing is, AI is here. It's a part of what we do in the world. So how can we teach students to use AI tools responsibly? We do not want them to replace thinking and writing with AI, but can we use it to enhance, make their work better? So let's analyze the role of technology and what we want to talk about, not to replace the 6 language arts, but to enhance it. So how do we do that? Well, how technology supports, I want you to think about, how can technology support speaking, listening, reading, writing, viewing, and visually representing? I think all of you have already seen this semester how that can be done. I want us to think about digital literacies in the 21st century. And as this class has talked about, that multimodal expression, giving kids opportunity to do audio, video, visuals, text, all of that needs to be included. Some examples could be digital storytelling, collaborative documents, and multimodal journals. So I want you to think about that. And that's actually something that I've been thinking about. In some of my other classes, I have students do journals, and I'm thinking about, why do just a written journal? Why not maybe written and audio, a multimodal type journal? And I'm thinking about integrating more of that into what I teach also. So as we think about evaluating digital tools, I want you to think about, here are a few ways, and then I want to show you some examples. One is podcasting. There are a lot of programs that I'm going to show you where students can create their own podcast. This really helps with fluency, it helps with oral language, it helps with performance, it helps with them being more confident in their speaking and listening. There's so many video editing tools. This really helps with multimodal composition. It helps with creativity. So I want you to think about that. And of course, AI tools for drafting, revision, feedback, and so forth. Now, just for the record, because I have this on here, in Southeastern policies, you cannot use AI tools for writing. And for, if it's a revision that's going to revise your paper, where it doesn't just do like a spelling or grammar, but if it rewrites it for you, that is considered AI plagiarism. And so, for example, Grammarly Plus actually rewrites your paper. just regular Grammarly, or if you go to Word and it shows you this is what's needed to be correcting, that's a little bit different. So just so you know, I'm not saying that you can use AI tools to revise a paper, but we have to think about that, revision tools. There's annotation software, and I'm going to show you how students can annotate and use that software. And then we're going to talk about criteria. So how do we evaluate? Well, number one is it needs to align to the standards, whether you're using Florida Best Standards or CCSR or whatever kind of standards you're using, the technology should align with those standards. You should choose the learning goal and then the technology. So my advice is, what is it that I want my students to accomplish? I used the example of journal. One of the things that's really difficult for me is just to get my students to read what I've asked them to read. And so I have to make some accountability piece, whether it's a discussion post or whatever it might be. So in my undergrad class, for example, I have a class I teach called Integration of Faith. And I have students do a journal, and I want them to do the journal because I want them to reflect on and to react to some of the things that they're reading. That's my learning goal. And I think I told you at the beginning of this video, I've always in the past done a written, but now I'm thinking of a multimodal journal where students can write and they can do audio feedback. It's still meeting my goal, right? But it's just, so I want to do the learning goal and then the technology. Integrating technology should be purposeful. It shouldn't just be like a little add-on. And this is real important. It should support collaboration. It should support creativity and communication. Using HyperDocs. And I've had other classes where students are doing collaboration and they're using the Google Docs. They're using discussion boards. They're using multimedia research to where they're communicating. We don't want it to isolate people, but we want, hopefully, where students can communicate more. So I now want to show you a few tools. So I created a link here, and I actually, when we talk about, I like to, what are some good uses of AI? So I used AI to create this list for you, and then I went back in and double checked it all. So I will be linking this to this week, so you'll have it. So I have included a lot of different links to a lot of different programs and how they support speaking and listening. And I highlighted ones that I've used personally. That they're not highlighted, I've not used them, but these are just ideas. I have gone to the websites to see a lot of them cost money. Not a lot are free, but I'm going to show you some that you can get for free. So ListenWise, StoryCorps, audio stories, our podcast, and so forth. Flipgrid I have used before. This is where students can record something orally, and then you can respond. When I was a principal, I would many times have classes put their things on Flipgrid, and then as an administrator, I could respond back to them. VoiceThread, I looked at that. That's a similar thing where students can do audio responses. Of course, we've probably all done Google Docs, so that's an important one. For viewing, if you have not used National Geographic for Kids, I would highly recommend it. And I'm actually going to show you that one because I thought it's just a really, really, really good tool. And so let me show you that. I had all of my tabs open, but so here we go. Here is an example of National Geographic for Kids. This is free. And you can see here we have the first Thanksgiving. And so it goes to the first Thanksgiving, and it gives students information about the first Thanksgiving. What I like about this is not all the articles, but many of the articles you can go into and you can decrease the readability level or you can increase the readability level. So you have to kind of look at the articles to see. So I'm just going to go here to birds. And I'm going to go to the bald eagle. And here again is something that students can read about the bald eagle. And like I said, not all of them, but some of the articles, you can pick articles that are less readability. There's videos and so forth also. So really, really, really a great tool. Another tool that I wanted to show you, and I just tried this out. It's free. I'd not heard about this before. I think it's Vocaroo, okay? But if you wanted to, this is something that you could record. And if you had a voice recording, you would just upload that, and then it would send it as a link to somebody. Part of me is like, well, it could do a QR code, or you could embed it. Part of me is like, well, why wouldn't you just, if you had the audio link, why wouldn't you use it? But did want to show you that. Okay, another, if you have not used Padlet, Padlet is a Google tool. And so here's an example of if I wanted to do like an exit ticket, I could do an exit ticket. And I have used this quite a bit with my students. You can create a QR code and so forth. So at the end of class, they can do the QR code and use that. So that's something to think about also. Okay, so look at that, the sheet that I sent you, and hopefully that will help. One of the tools that has really, really helped my students a lot is Notebook LM. And if you have not used it, I just want to show you a few things that Notebook LM can do. And so let me go here, and I'm just going to give you a little example. So here I am in Notebook LM, and you can use it for free up to so many sources and so many times, and it has to be paid for. It's kind of like a lot of AI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the article that you guys need to read today. And so I'm uploading that article, and this is an article about AI. So I'm actually using AI to help you understand the article about AI. So you can see right now it's uploading it, and it says harnessing, that's AI. And here it has just a short summary of that, what that is. Now, let's say I wanted to, it can also turn that into, I've reached my, okay, I can't, it's up to a certain point, you can't use it. So now I'm going to try something else. I am in the wrong Google account, so I'm going to go to a different Google account, because Southeastern's allows for, if you use this product, I would recommend using your Southeastern account, because I think you can use it with your Southeastern account. So, okay, so here I'm in my Southeastern account. I have two Google accounts, sorry. And I can see here that it is uploading that article, and it's summarizing the key parts of the article for me. You can do an audio feedback. And so here it's going to take a minute to generate the audio overview. But let me show you this while we're waiting on that. It can also give you a mind map. And this is kind of like an outline of the article, and it can create flashcards for you and even a quiz. So I'm going to show, once this loads, I just kind of wanted to show you in real time. So it looks like our mind map is done. So I'm going to go here to my mind map. And isn't this cool? This is the article, and this shows you the three main points: instructional uses, key challenges, and context, and AI in AI history and education. Click here, look, it builds. Here's my foundation. So instructional uses, it builds knowledge, it builds critical analysis, teaching critical evaluation. So I thought this was really a cool tool. I have some students that have diagnosed learning disabilities, and as a part of that, they have been using this, and I can tell you students that were making D's are now making, I have a student who's making a B, A minus. And what he does is he, I tell him you have to read the article. So he read the article, but this is a way to supplement to help him understand it even more. And he takes quizzes. So in my in-person classes, I give quizzes every Monday, and he's excelling in those quizzes. So I know that he's reading it and he's also using this information. So you can, again, download that, and that'll give you a little download of the information. And so you can, again, download that, and then that will give you the download of that. Okay, so going to get out of that now and go back to here. And I wish I should have saved that, but I did not. Okay, so it does that. It can also create an audio version. It can do a video. It can do flashcards. And so I don't think that'll take a whole lot of time. So I'm going to generate those flashcards so you can see that. Now, this is based on one source. So, for example, my students, I have a final exam. If it were me, they could download all of the PowerPoints of all of my classes. They could download it into here and ask Google LM to create flashcards for them or quizzes based on that material. So I'm doing the quiz now. So this, again, is a tool that can help students understand. Am I saying it should replace reading? Absolutely not. Students should still be reading the information. So here are the flashcards it created. When was chat released? It talks about that. So these are just little flashcards according to the article. Prohibiting the use of AI in schools prevents educators from teaching what 2 key skills. So there you go, gives you that information. And so I just wanted to show you this as an example of how one tool that I have found has really, really helped my students in school. So let me now go back here and we'll finish. Okay, so as we think about AI, I want you to think for me about, and sorry, I think I have the amount of tabs I have open is becoming too great. Okay, let's try this. I think this is better. Here we go. So as we think about AI, we looked at some of those tools. I want you to think about equity and access. So the digital divide. Sometimes there's a digital divide in your classroom. So if you are an administrator, I know we have some administrators in this class, how are you going to ensure that there's equal access when it comes to technology? We want equitable access to multimodal tools. We have to consider ethical things about AI use and academic honesty and culturally responsive technology. And then universal design by learning, that all students have access. As we think about emerging technology, some things I want you to think about: generative AI. What's the impact that's going to have on writing and reading? I'm going to be honest, it's been a big problem in, I would say, more of my graduate classes and my undergrad. And where the policy is at Southeastern, you cannot use AI to create something, to a substitute for your writing. You can use AI, however, to supplement it. So we're going to talk about a few examples, but so think about generative AI, virtual reality. There's so many virtual reality tools. We actually at Southeastern had some demonstrations, and it was a virtual reality tool for our nursing students, so they could point to, if you've taken anatomy, they could go right directly to those different organs and so forth. When you talk about social, you have to think about social media literacies, how emerging literacies shape identity in our communication. And we have to prepare our students for this evolving literacy demands that they have. So why does this matter? Students already use AI. The Notebook LM is a huge tool. Teachers need to understand strengths and limitations, and we have to know the ethical, equitable, and informed technical integration. I think I already showed you this, the Google Notebook. I just gave you that example. You can upload an article, you can upload a reading, it will generate outlines, study guides, podcasts. So it really encompasses all of those language arts. So as we think about technology, it should amplify, not replace students' voices. It should amplify their thinking. It should amplify their creativity. And when we use digital tools, we need to help students become powerful readers, writers, speakers, and creators. So when everything with AI started coming out, I was 100% just totally against AI. I was like, it's just going to be the demise of all of us. And I still have my concerns. And as I've said, our policy at Southeastern is you cannot use AI to write a paper for you, to even revise a paper where it's changing your words. You can't use AI to create your thinking, okay? But you can use AI to supplement, right? And that's why I like this. It says it should amplify our voices. So when did it start? When did I start changing a little bit? So last summer I went to Albania to teach, and of course they don't speak English in Albania. And so I had my information and I was presenting some research I had done, and I thought, I'm going to try this. So I put my PowerPoint in AI to translate it into Albanian, and within minutes my PowerPoint was in Albanian. Then I was doing some things on faith integration, and I thought, I need some more culturally appropriate pictures. And I asked AI to generate those culturally appropriate pictures to align with my presentation. And so I wrote the presentation myself, but I used AI to amplify my voice, to make it better by adding the Albanian language, by adding some of the pictures. Then I went to Tanzania and Kenya, and they speak Swahili there besides English. And so I put some of my slides in Swahili. Again, use some culturally appropriate pictures, ask AI to create those for me. And then when I got to some pretty difficult concepts, so when I was talking maybe biblically, I was talking some integration of faith ideas, I would put some ideas in and ask AI to help me create some pictures that would convey those deeper thoughts. So again, I created the PowerPoint, I created the presentation. I'm the content expert on that. AI, when you think about it, guys, it's like accumulation of everything on the web that it puts together. That could be wrong or right. And I was talking to my son who's has a YouTube channel, about 15 YouTube channels actually. And one of the things he said, it scares me because if everyone's using AI, there's not going to be a lot of new information. It's just going to be regurgitated information. So we have to be careful about that. So choose the learning goal first, then choose the tool. Can technology help? Can it not help? I'm working with, I think I've told you, I work with a school with the Bureau of Indian Education. And there's a lot of research that shows that putting kids on computers can be a detrimental, that they need, as we've discussed in this class, they need to hold a pencil, they need dictation. We talked about that in a couple modules ago. And so continually putting kids on computers can be very harmful. So we have to think about, when is it effective? What's the purpose and what's the connection to the learning goals? So digital literacies will keep evolving, but the core of teaching is the same. We have to have relationships, we have to have clarity, we have to have purpose. We have to integrate faith in our teaching. So let's get to this week's assignments, okay? So I'm going to log in and talk about that. And again, sorry, it takes me a bit to get all my tabs here. I have my in-laws here and my husband. And so I told my husband, I said, try not to come in during my video. And so far he's been very good. We'll have to see if he comes in while I'm working with you guys. The food cabinet's behind me. So sometimes he likes cereal a lot. So he may be coming in there to get cereal. So this week we are in module 7. And the module is entitled Technology and the Language Arts. And so I'm going to go over what you're going to be doing this week. So this week, under the Learn section, you're going to be really happy. You only have one article, and that article is on AI. So in this module, you're going to read one article. And it is about, it's the article that I put in, Making Artificial Intelligence Your Friend. I then have a video, how AI could save education, not destroy it. We'll see. I don't know if you agree with that. And then I have a lot of different links to different programs like Canva, Book Creator, Adobe Express, Newsletter. These are just things that you can look, Padlet, just Storyboard, different tools that you might find helpful as you are thinking about technology. Okay, so what are you doing? You have 2 assignments this week, but they're not too bad. Okay, here's the first one. After you've read the article, reflect on the role of AI in language arts. What are the benefits and challenges? How can educators help students use these tools ethically, especially in ways that support learning rather than replace it? And that's the thing, guys. We want AI to support learning, not replace learning. We have to consider things like plagiarism, bias, over-reliance, access, student voice. So what guidelines would you use? That's your one of your assignments. Now, your next assignment is actually half of your final assignment for Module 8. So Module 8 is a big assignment, but I learned, and last year when I did this, students in my course evaluations told me that it was too much information for Module 8. So what you're going to do this week is you're going to do half of the assignment. So first, let me explain the entire assignment. So the entire assignment is you have 2 fictitious classrooms. You have a primary and an intermediate classroom. So you can go here, and I'm just going to download the primary one. So here is a primary classroom. I have 20 kids. It has their lexile level, how they do in writing, and how they do in speaking and listening. Okay, so you have all of that right there. Then we have an intermediate classroom. So here's our intermediate classroom, and here's all of the data about that classroom. You need to look at all of that data, and you need to put those kids into, now I have on the template guided reading groups. We really don't call them guided reading groups. It's more structured reading groups. I need to correct that, but we're going to call them structured reading groups, okay? So you can have as few as 4 groups or as many as 6. You need to look at that data and all of the language arts. It does reading, writing, and speaking and listening, and you need to put those kids in groups. You have 20 kids. You need to tell me why you are grouping them that way and the focus of the group. For example, you may look at one of the groups and you may say, I'm going to put, and you would name, I'm going to show you the paper here so you can see it. So here is the paper that you're going to use. So you might look at the primary classroom and you might have 5 kids, and you're going to list those 5 kids, and you're going to say, I'm going to put those 5 kids in a group because they are all struggling with decoding, especially they still don't know all of their CVC words. They're still not blending and segmenting CVC words. So my focus will be, and then you will tell the focus. You might have one group that you put together because they really lack fluency. You might have another group that needs to really work on writing. So that's what you're going to do. Okay. This week, this is half of the assignment for module 8. And so when you turn that in, there's a place for you to turn that in, but you're going to see that when you turn it in, it's going to say non-graded, because I'm going to give you, it says ungraded, but you can turn it in. I called IDT and they said that you can turn it in as ungraded. And so you'll turn it in. I'm going to give you feedback, but you won't get a grade until module 8. So after you've done this is part 1. In module 8, you already have the kids in your groups according to what they need for groups based on their data. Then in module 8, you're going to kind of continue that assignment, and you are going to develop some learning centers that support, let me show you here okay, here's the template. So after that, in module 8, you're going to develop centers, and you need 6 centers. You need to list the standards for the centers and the reason for the centers. So here's what I'm in my mind thinking. You have 20 kids, and I want this to be as real life as possible for teaching a large classroom. If you have a 120-minute reading block, a big chunk of that time should be in small groups. And so in this week's module, you're putting them in the teacher group, right? The group that you are going to be teaching. So let's say you had 4 groups. Then one of the groups is going to be with the teacher, right? But if you have 4 kids with you, what are the other 16 kids going to do? Well, they should be doing learning centers. And so now you're going to develop these learning centers. So you might have a writing center. You might have a spelling center. That's up to you, but you have to have the data to support it. So you're going to have the name, the center name. So you might have a writing center where they're using technology. You need to then list the standards that support that. And lastly, the reason for the center. Now that part you will not do until module 8. And then also in module 8, there is a reflection that you're going to do. So because module 8 is so substantial, I want to break it up. And so again, for module 7, you're going to do the discussion post, and then you're going to do part 1 of the final project that's due in module 8. And part 1 is to either pick a primary class or an intermediate class and to put them in instructional groups. You can have 4 to 6 groups, and you explain why. And then again, when you get to module 8, that's the final exam or the final part of the paper of the class. You're going to develop centers, at least 6 centers for your class. And then you also have a student needs analysis where you're going to be explaining the children and so forth, and why you put them in that group. So make sure there's anything else. Oh yeah, next in module 8. So try not to be confusing. Module 7, we're just putting in your structured groups, the teacher groups. In module 8, you're going to develop your centers. And then you are going to, sorry, I'm trying to look at the template. Then you are going to, for each kiddo, okay, there we go. That's what I was looking at. Then for each kiddo, you're going to put the kid's name, their reading group, what 3 centers you want them to go to, and the reasons for the center. But that's in module 8, okay? So for module 7, the only thing you're doing is the teacher groups. So what are you can have 4 to 6 teacher groups based on the data. And then in module 8, you're going to develop 6 centers. And one of those centers could be you, the teacher center. And then you'll fill out this form where you have the kids' names, and then you're going to have what reading group they're in, which that's what you did in week 7. And then you're going to have 3 centers that you want them to be in and why. Okay, I know that's a lot, but that's why I'm having you do it in 2 weeks instead of 1. But this week, you're just doing the first part of the assignment, which is analyzing the data and then discovering or figuring out what kind of groups that you want it, teacher groups that you want that to be in. And again, that's non-graded, but if you don't do it, then you're going to have a lot of work to do in module 8. And I don't want that because that's the last week. And I'm going to want to grade everything so I can get on summer or Christmas break, and you will want to also, okay? So that's it. I know this was a lot, but I had a lot of explaining to do. I will have office hours this week if it's kind of a big assignment. So if you're just confused and you don't understand, please get in there. But I did this assignment because this is real stuff, guys. I've been an administrator. I've been a teacher for 39 years, and I can tell you, and even now I work as a consultant. And one of the things that I constantly do with teachers is I look at their data. We try to put them in instructional groupings. We develop centers, and then we figure out what kids need to go with what centers and why. This is what should happen. Structured small groups are where learning really, really happens. Many of you are, if you are in the educational therapist degree, you may have small groups, you may not have a large class, but the thinking that you need to do is the same. You need to look at data, put kids in small groups, figure out exactly what they need based on the data. Okay, that's all I have. You guys have a wonderful day.